Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. I've been asking myself just questions as I'm getting into the fantasy world, and maybe you're there with me. Exactly what is fantasy? I've got stories, I've got movies, I've got books in my mind that I think I go to, but these four categories I think are really going to help us. Maybe you've known this for a while and there's some other suggestions, some things that you think I really need to check out, but maybe you're like me and are new to the world. And so what are some of the subgenres? What are some of the tropes, the character types, and the story styles of fantasy? And I've enjoyed kind of looking through this, and I just kind of wanted to share with you as a way of teaching myself what exactly is fantasy. So we'll go through this. I'll have some examples and definitions, and this has really helped me just begin to place different stories in different categories. So let me know what you think. Hopefully it'll be fun to talk through some of these things and helpful as we get into the world of fantasy. Well, the first subgenre that we're going to come to is epic fantasy or high fantasy. Yes, The Lord of the Rings is the classic example, and a little spoiler here for you. The Lord of the Rings is going to show up a lot because it's so influential. But here we go, epic fantasy, set in a completely made-up world with its own rules, its own history and races, elves, dwarves, etc., and often large-scale magic, grand adventures, and world-saving stakes. And I think that's really the important one too. Like, the fate of the world is going to end if this is not accomplished. Things like Brandon Sanderson's the Stormlight Archive, also epic fantasy. The Wheel of Time, epic fantasy, big stories. And that's probably what most people think of when they think fantasy stories. They think this high fantasy. The next one, though, would be low fantasy. And I'll be honest, I think that there's probably some crossover here. Magic intrudes into our real world, or our real-ish world, and the focus is on more human, less epic, more personal. I think Percy Jackson could fit into sort of magic oozing into our world, but there are certainly, even there, some very epic fantasy themes and elements to it. But, a little bit more centered to the real world, but magical and fantastical elements certainly creep into it. We have urban fantasy, supernatural beings like vampires or werewolves and witches in a contemporary city, often fast-paced, witty, mixes mystery and noir. Here we've got the Dresden Files. So again, you've got that element of these sort of mythic beings sort of being placed and operating in city urban feels. And again, there's a lot of these types of stories and very popular. We have grimdark fantasy, and here I have Song of Ice and Fire, but obviously that there are epic elements to the Game of Thrones, but bleak, morally gray worlds where things are harsh, violent, hope is scarce. Again, think here Game of Thrones vibes. So we've got the feel, very dark, very gray, and there's a lot of harshness to it. Your heroes need to overcome a lot in these types of stories. Got romantasy, and again, this is a very popular genre. Heavy romance woven into fantasy plot, often features strong romantic tension alongside magic and adventure. Got a Court of Thorns and Roses there as one of the premier examples, certainly. Currently, romantasy would be the next subgenre. And we've got cozy fantasy. I'll admit I've not read Legends and Lattes, but heard of it. And here we've got low stakes, feel good stories, fun, family, everyday magic, like here opening a magical coffee shop. So you got to think I'm just jumping into a story here, gonna get out, really gonna kind of scratch some of those fantasy itches, and I can understand why cozy fantasy would be one that a lot of people go to. But we've got some common tropes here. And again, tropes can be dangerous if they are distracting from the plot. But I mean, all of these stories are going to need some of these types of characters and tropes and elements To move the story along, there's a reason they're called tropes. It's because they're very popular, they're very effective in moving forward the plot. And here are some common tropes. There's going to be characters, going to be story elements, and some may come up later as well. The first one's going to have the chosen one trope, okay? A seemingly ordinary person destined to save the world via prophecy or a birthright. If you got Harry Potter here, really classic example, the trope of the chosen one. The reluctant hero, someone who doesn't want the adventure but gets dragged into it anyway. Yes, the Hobbit, Bilbo Baggins, the reluctant hero who eventually grows into that role, becomes more and more confident in that role, but initially the reluctant hero. Good versus evil, again, another Lord of the Rings reference, really here, classic. The battles of darkness versus light, evil versus good, wicked versus righteousness, right? Modern books often make it grayer, much more gray in this area, but we do have some classic examples of evil versus good. The Lord of the Rings being a very timeless example of that trope. Ancient prophecy, here we go. We've got a foretold event that drives a plot. The Eye of the World being one of those. We've got Randall Thor being this prophesied, returned being, and him finding that out, people recognizing it. But the ancient prophecy, again, there are a lot of these tropes in a lot of stories, but you can see how this would be a very common story element. A magical artifact. A number of stories have magical artifacts. Powerful object that everyone wants. A ring, a sword, an amulet. Yes. Again, the Lord of the Rings, the One Ring here. A magical artifact is one of these tropes. The mentor, an older figure who teaches the hero and does often die dramatically. Here I've got Obi-Wan as that mentor figure. I could have done Mufasa in The Lion King. He'll come up later. I could have any number, Gandalf, right? Of course. Even you've got Dumbledore dying. So again, the mentor trope here. And then rags to riches. A hero discovers their royalty or they're special and they come into their own. Rags to riches story. Cinderella, yes. Very, very common example of this trope. And then you have a found family, right? A group of misfits comes together to become a tight-knit team. Here I've got Guardians of the Galaxy. Even outside of fantasy, you could think something like Ocean's 11, where a bunch of misfits come together, and yes, love is found, connection is found, support, trust is developed, a found family. Even Avatar here, you can have that sort of feeling of a soldier who really finds a world that he falls in love with, and even is willing to forsake other relationships for this new family. The Dark Lord, a common trope here, a powerful villain threatening everything. Pretty succinct there. Here we have a graphic of the Lord Ruler from Mistborn, and I'll bring Mistborn up again later, I believe, yes. But the Dark Lord, well, also, I mean, you've got Darth Vader here, right? Powerful villain, really threatening to mess everything up. But we have some character types that are very common, and again, these are, a number of these could show up in the same story, but you've got these basic character types. Archetypes could also be a word for this category. The orphan farm boy, humble beginnings, often the chosen one, Luke Skywalker here, on a farm, right? Staring off into the twin suns, longing for something beyond himself. The wise mentor, wizard, old warrior, etc. Yes, Gandalf. Classic example here of the wise mentor. The rogue, the thief, I've got Han Solo here as our example. Clever, sarcastic sidekick who's great at sneaking and stealing. The rogue, right? And yes, Han Solo there with the arms wide, shrugging like, what? Exactly what we need to think here. The warrior, the knight, you got Lancelot, right? The brave fighter, often honorable or dishonored and redeeming themselves. At the end, they may sacrifice themselves to prove that they've truly earned the right to be that honorable person again. But you've got the warrior, the knight trope. The mage, the wizard, again, Dumbledore here is an example. Different maybe than the mentor. The mentor could be a wizard, but the magical user, sometimes arrogant or mysterious. Very important to the plot, especially if it's a team story. But yes, here is one of these character types. The evil overlord. Different than maybe the Dark Lord. You've got a charismatic villain with big plans. Here we have the Emperor from the Star Wars universe. Big plans, his agenda, moving forward in one direction. The evil overlord who's pulling all the strings. We have the reluctant princess trope, royalty who wants freedom. Think Shrek, right? Princess Fiona. Here we have Buttercup and from The Princess Bride. And yes, even the knight here shows up as this sort of balance to the reluctant princess, pulls her into it. Think Rapunzel here and Flynn Rider from the Disney cartoon, pulls her into the story even if she doesn't know what she's wanting or really getting into. And then we have the anti-hero, flawed, morally ambiguous protagonist, very common in grimdark fantasy. Deadpool, to me, here is a very natural example. Someone whose morals are all over the place. But we still sort of consider the hero, even though they do not do heroic things in the morally heroic way that they should, or that would be presented as the good way to do things. So the anti-hero is a very common character type. Common story styles. You drop into a number of these stories and you're going to see a lot of repetition, a lot of copy paste, because these are very common story styles. First off, we have the hero's journey, right? I mean, this is the premier fantasy journey style, hero story style. What is it? The ordinary world. There's a call to adventure. The mentor who leads them into it. There's certainly trials. There's a big ordeal, and they return transformed. Again, I've got the Lion King here. This is funny. There's so many. But this just really one just set up exactly for children. You've got little Simba, right, walking around in the world, asking his dad, learning, really can't wait to be king. The call to adventure. Mufasa says, you are going to be king one day, so you need to learn. The mentor, though, who is beginning to form him, eventually the trial comes where, dad dies and he needs to go out on his own. The big ordeal here is he meets Timon and Pumbaa. He is becoming himself and eventually, though, is forced to return. He finds that the Pride Land is being destroyed by Scar and the hyenas. So he returns, transforms, takes back Pride Rock, walks up, roars everybody, and restores peace and tranquility to the world, right? The hero's journey. We love this story. We resonate with the hero's journey. And many a story has been built using this story type. The epic quest, again, Lord of the Rings here being our example. The heroes band together to retrieve an object, defeat a great evil, or save the world. Yes, classic high fantasy, the epic quest. Coming of age discovery, young protagonist learns about their powers or the world they grow up in. I've got Little Women just as one of these examples. Again, this is less fantasy and more just novel fiction. But you've got young people growing into the role that they are meant to play. And obviously young, they're coming of age, they're growing into this role, and they're discovering things about themselves, things about the world around them, and probably even discovering that they are the ones who are going to solve these things. So again, I could have used a lot of examples, but Little Women there was just young, learning about themselves and really discovering their place in the world. And there's just so many different characters in that story. You can even see different character types in Little Women. But again, there's going to be a lot of fantasy examples of that. Overthrowing the tyrant, rebellion against an evil ruler and empire. I've got Mistborn here. Kelsier and the band are going to overthrow the Lord Ruler. You've got Star Wars, right? The rebellion is going to overthrow the empire. So many examples of overthrowing the tyrant. Mystery and investigation here again. It doesn't have to be fantasy. There are certainly heist fantasies and investigation and elements of this. I've got Agatha Christie here as the queen of mystery. Solving crimes using wit and deduction. Again, you can have Sherlock Holmes here. So fantasy, more than just fiction. Fantasy being the big, wide world, the epic element, but also smaller elements like cozy fantasy, like grimdark, like urban fantasy, a little bit more centralized. But murder and investigation is definitely one of those story types, and certainly woven into a lot of these stories. So I hope this is helpful. It was helpful to me. What is fantasy? Here are some major key elements of fantasy. But let me know in the description. Is there something we missed? Is there a type, a character, a plotline that you really resonate with? And what are you currently reading? Where does your book fit into this? What's your favorite story? And let's just keep the conversation going. I hope this will be helpful for those who maybe are trying to get into fantasy, begin to give you a little bit of a roadmap to fantasy. What is it? What should I be expecting? Because at the end of the day, experiencing these stories is special and it really will change you. And that's what's so incredible about stories. So I hope you enjoy what you're reading. I hope this helps you enjoy it even more. And thanks so much for watching.